We've been struggling with the number of folks that are on the terror watch list. As members of Congress, we're trying to determine what that number is and are having to rely on open source information. So, Secretary Barisi, could you, even in ballpark terms, tell us what is the size of that list?
I don't actually have that off the top of my head.
Can you give us an estimate where we don't have to rely on open press reports? Is it between 1 and 1 million? What would be your number?
I really just don't even want to speculate on a wrong number.
You can't even
I'm happy to call
speculate
my
on the size of the
partners
list.
and get back to you on that.
Ms. Kephart, would you enlighten us, please?
My information is a few years old. I was able to meet with Mr. Healy of the Terrorism Screening Center a few years ago, where he was able to give me information he said I could make public. At that time, I did so, and at that time, there were 10 to 20,000 terrorists in the U.S. On U.S. soil that the FBI knew about. That's what I know.
People suspected that were under suspicion.
The folks that were on the terrorist screening watch list to have reasonable suspicion that they were indeed involved with terrorism, that legal level that is a little bit above in terms of evidence of the tied list, which is just a conglomeration of people we think might be involved.
Can this committee get a number? I mean, we've got people
That's up to the administration, sir.
We have the nation, you know, both on every side of this issue, 407 people on the House floor. I mean, if that's not darn near unanimity, I don't know what is in this building, that voted for this visa waiver protection, because we feel that that is where the greatest threat lies. We can discuss the other aspects, but we can't even get good figures in an open hearing that would be, round to the nearest 100,000, say. Can you give us a number?
Sir, I just want to make sure that the number is accurate, and I
Well,
will
sure, but
make sure the Terrorist Screening Center is responsive to that request.
Okay, once again, here, okay, thank you. And I guess we'll have to rely on our First Amendment and reporters that would dig, because, you know, we're just the Oversight and Government Reform Committee. What business is it of ours constitutionally to get these numbers? Could you speak to the passports for sale on Malta, Secretary Barisi?
I don't have information.
Well, you just gave us some of these concerns in your testimony today, such as passports that would be for sale in Malta and not going through a vetting process, and that caught my attention. So I would like you to comment.
That was
I'm sorry, Ms. Kephart.
Testimony.
My apologies, okay. Madam Secretary.
Yeah, so Malta and Cyprus are the two visa waiver countries right now that sell citizenship for a price with no residency requirements and very little vetting. Other countries, including ourselves, also make long-term residency and passports available based on investments. But countries that absolutely sell it outright with no vetting procedures in place, I think, are a little bit dangerous. And of course, Malta and Cyprus have had serious financial issues.
But these are among the 38, Cyprus and Malta.
Yes, they are. They're visa waiver countries right now.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Chairman, I just want to address one thing that was made in some opening testimonies, or not testimonies, but comments of our committee. As probably the only firearms manufacturer in Congress, there's a lot of very inaccurate information that's being thrown out there. One, if you are a non-resident immigrant alien, you cannot purchase a firearm. If you're on any visa waiver, it is unlawful. It is against the law to purchase a firearm. And you certainly can't walk into any facility and purchase explosives. And I would be happy to educate any member on this committee on what 18th U.S. Code is on the sale of firearms. We are wasting a lot of time and effort on that. Mr. Good, you said that you didn't totally agree with every aspect of what 407 members of Congress voted for this last week. I would be curious what you didn't agree with. And then you said that we should not be on the hook to fund higher standards. Pray tell why other nations should have our money when we're trying to protect our shores. If they want a visa waiver, why should we pay for that? Don't you think they should? I'm curious to your logic here, sir. Could you please enlighten me?
I'm not sure. On the last part, I'm not sure I follow that question, because I certainly...
Well, let me reiterate it with the Chairman's indulgence. you said that we would have to, these, changes in the visa waiver program, that we would have to allow these, funding for these other countries to handle that.
Our own consulates in those countries who, if you're in a visa waiver, if you're a consulate in a visa waiver country, you probably do not have a large number of staff there to process visa applications. So U.S. government employees in U.S. embassies and consulates in visa waiver countries, that was the point that I was making.
Well, I think those countries, if they want this, that they certainly could assist in the expense of that.
But excuse me if I could that situation is analogous, or is exactly the same to what every U.S. embassy and consulate has in a non-visa waiver country. It's not. It shouldn't be an additional burden that we would think that if we're going to change the rules about how people in visa waiver countries get into the United States. I think it's completely reasonable then to say that we have to ensure that our U.S. government offices are fully resourced in order to handle that change in the rules.
Well, sure. And when you look at China, who is not one of the 38 countries, they send a lot of people here. They have more people in this country on permanent residencies of some nature than I have in my whole state as a population. And they don't have the visa waiver. And I think that we can make these accommodations and still protect the United States of America. And with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your indulgence in my time.
Thanks, gentlemen. Time's expired.